Hey guys, and welcome at last to Labby's Big Fat Pasty tutorial. So this is my intro video. I'm gonna kind of go over the materials you're gonna need to cover the whole course. Together, all of these videos are hopefully going to make up a course from, you know, baby steps, basic pasties, to tasseled pasties, to making whatever shape you want. But there are some materials that are gonna kind of span the course, and starting with talking about materials seems like the right thing. So this is the intro, and if you want to just if you want to skip to like the first actual making pasties video, it should go up the same day as this intro. I'm gonna hold back on the intro video until that video is completed, just so that they can go up together, so that it's not just like, look at all these materials. Like, there's also the, okay, now we can start doing something as soon as you're done looking at that. So starting out, I'm gonna say the absolute first thing you're gonna want to look for to make pasties the way I make them, and I am not the end-all be-all. Please watch as many tutorials as you can, because that's what I've done, and I found it really freeing to explore what's out there and create my own method of making these things. So yeah, you know, varied approaches for varied people. Some people get it one way and some people get it another, and it all ends up with gorgeous results, so it really doesn't matter. But the first thing that I'm going to advise is this is Unicorn Buckram from Joann's. This was also featured in my How to Make a Fez tutorial. And this is just like a really stiff woven fabric. And it is not super expensive. Buy a yard at a time and you can make, like, this started out as a yard and there's still a ton of it left, and I know I've made like at least 6 pairs of pasties out of this, and of various shapes and sizes. So it can last you quite a while with just a yard, especially if you're only making for your own performances. I mean, feel free to buy however much you want, but once you start, you may not want to stop. So having a whole yard around may absolutely save your life one day. Oh, and I made a hat out of that yard. Like, so like 6 pairs of pasties and a hat. That stuff can go pretty far. I mean, well, it was a tiny hat, but you know, it goes pretty far when you're making small projects with it. End of story. Not anyway. So the next thing that you're gonna need, and for everything, is cardstock. It does not matter at all. This is leftover cardstock I've had from like from art projects from my college classes, and I just have had them forever because I bought a huge pack to get exactly the color I wanted for a project, and then all the rest of it I was like, what am I ever gonna do with bright freaking green? Well, use it to make templates and all of that jazz these days, and I still have a ton of this left, but I'm actually going through it at a pretty steady pace. But yeah, you want cardstock. It's easier to keep around so that you can reuse it. It's not forever, but just before your one goes out, trace it onto a new piece of cardstock and you'll have a nice fresh pattern. You will also want various circle templates, and I will, anything that's a sort of a printable thing, I will put links to resources in all of the descriptions of the videos in which we use them. But I've had this set. I cut these out when I started making pasties, And they've lasted me for a while because I usually only use the size that's, I use these two the most, as you can see from how they're all beat up on the edges, and these are not, because, you know, this is way too tiny for me. This is like a little bit too big in most cases. So, you know, different size breasts, different size nipples. You'll want a template. I've found that the easiest. Just cut all of these out and then just hold them up to your areas, your areolas, actually. I can use terminology, right? I don't have to be advertiser friendly because I'm not monetized. So, you know, just try to match it up, and whatever is a little bit bigger than the area you want to cover, because you're going to cone, is going to be your sort of your sweet spot there, and you'll use that one a lot. But don't rule out that you might use the others at some points in time. So keep them around. Like, keep a little box that's your patterns, especially once you get into creating your custom shapes. Another thing that can be incredibly great to have around is craft foam. I usually use Buckram bases, but craft foam also makes an excellent base. It's got a very nice surface for tapes to adhere to and to glue fabric onto, and it's nice and sturdy too. Sturdy but flexible. That's what you're looking for in a backing material. Some people use pleather. I have not used pleather yet because I have not found much of a reason to, but that's another material you can experiment with. And then as far as fabrics that go on top of your Buckram or your craft foam, pretty much anything. With stretchy fabrics, you can make your cones and then stretch your fabric over it. I don't use a lot of stretchy fabric, so I end up not doing that a lot, but things that I've seen used a lot, felts, because they're pretty cheap and they can give you a nice color base, and then you can glue or glitter whatever onto these. And then just, I use a lot of just cotton, and you don't need much, and you can make multiples if you need multiples, or if you're just making more to sell, because obviously anything you make from this tutorial, go forth and sell it if you wish to sell it. Use it on your body, use it on your friends' bodies, give them a gift, sell them in whatever shops, because whatever you make will be yours. I don't know that I needed to say that, but I am going to say that. Like, please, if you start getting inspired and you're like, oh, I want to make a ton, but I can't wear them all, and I just want to sell them to people and make people happy with nipple covers, do it. Absolutely. I'm out there doing it. I encourage you to be out there doing it. We'll all do it together. Dirty jokes. Obviously, you are going to need some kind of scissors. You will actually need preferably 2 pairs of scissors. You will want your craft scissors that you can use on the craft foam, that you can use on the Buckram, that you can cut through hot glue with, that you can use on the paper, your regular old craft scissors, and then your fabric scissors. Don't cut paper with your fabric scissors. Don't do it. The Buckram is okay. I usually don't, just because I'm like really, like, these scissors are really my, like, these scissors have cut an apple, and that's how bad off these scissors are. And these scissors have only cut fabric. I was cutting duck cloth for corsets, and I used this and not this because I don't want to dull these at all. That's how I am about it, and that's really how you should be about it. Your fabric scissors really should be just for fabric, because at some point when you've been cutting a lot of paper, a lot of craft foam with a pair of scissors, they start to like snag the fabric, and like the cut is less clean and less nice. And it's just better to have two separate pairs. And it doesn't even have to be, these are a fairly, or I got them on sale, so they were decently priced, because I think they were like $8 on sale. They might be 40% more than that regular, but so these are a pair of Fiskars, and I like small scissors. I have a pair of large scissors that's craft scissors as well, but I almost never use them because I like the precision of small scissors. These are my ideal scissors, but I could not find them again, so I got this pair of Fiskars, and it's nice and small, and it's got the little guide, and it's good for details, and I do a lot of small work, so honestly it works for me. I think that's all I have to, oh, and these were probably like super cheap scissors at some point in time, like cheap craft scissors in the first place, so they probably weren't great for fabric, but they were my like go-to scissors. But they were used to cut an apple, and that's when I went, nope, have to have these for fabric. And that's scissors. They're the last thing, well, not the last thing, sorry. The next thing I'm going to mention is you are going to want, this is a material called Heat and Bond. It's basically a big sheet of glue with some paper on the back side that you iron this on to one side of your fabric, and then you can pull the paper off, and there's the back side of the glue is also heat activated to be tacky, so that you can then glue that piece of fabric onto something else. Quilters use it a lot. I use it for pasties mostly. I did also use it for some hats and stuff, but mostly pasties. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And then of course you're gonna want some embellishments. Your glitters and sequin strips and individual sequins, and of course rhinestones. I keep all of my rhinestones in this magical bead sorter right here. These are quite cheap at Michael's or Joann's. I don't know about elsewhere. We have Michael's and Joann's in my town, and then that craft store I will not go into. But those are what we have. You could probably even get these, I don't know if you can get them in all Walmarts, but you can probably get them in some Walmarts or from online, or Amazon does sell them as well. I remember going in and getting mine with a coupon because I'm really impatient, and I was like, oh hey, look, here's this 50% off an item coupon, and here's this thing I want. But yeah, I keep my rhinestones and actually some beads, some actual beads in my bead sorter as well. And what I like to do, these are just some cheap plastic stone, well, they're all plastic actually, but these are some cheap acrylic stones. Acrylic rhinestones are gonna be sort of the lowest quality rhinestone you can grab, but that doesn't mean that they're gonna be bad. Like I have examples sitting in front of me. Like this is an acrylic stone on here, and these are some acrylic stones I bought at Halloween time one year. And these are acrylic stones. So they're lower quality, but when you're using them on a project and you use just these, no one's gonna judge it that hard, to be honest. And if you like the colors, if it's cheap and that's what you can do right now, go for it. But then other than that, so I don't label those, but with my nicer rhinestones, I actually label these. So these are actually resin rhinestones, which is also a plastic, but it is a completely different quality of plastic. And let me just get here so we can compare these, since we're talking about materials and qualities of materials. So the larger stone is the acrylic stone, and the smaller stone is the resin stone. And you can just see it's a little bit more clear, like it's less cloudy, it sparkles a little more, especially when they're in a group, they sparkle a lot more. And those are a little bit more expensive. There's also rhinestones that are known as DMCs. I'm not actually sure what those are made of, or if it's just a brand of resin rhinestone. I have never used them. And then the like next fullest step, the best sparkle, the biggest impact, but also the most expensive thing you can buy are the like Swarovski crystals. And those are so sparkly, but I have not worked with those because they're so expensive, and I am not at that level right now. But as I was saying about organization, as I lose the lid for my rhinestones here, I'll find that in a second. So I just, for my own reference, so that I can reorder any color I want, I have these pieces of tape so that I can take them off as well if I don't and I run out and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna get these again right now and I need to put something else in here. I just don't like permanent labeling because I guess I'm really afraid of commitment. I don't know. But I just write down the seller that I bought from. These particular reds came from Blingasm. I write down the size, they're 5mm, and then the color that the seller calls them. These are Blingasm red 5mm. Whereas I have these, and these are from Blingy Thingy on Etsy. They're 5mm light blues. And so on and so on. I have a lot from Blingy Thingy right now. Blingasm is also wonderful. The quality between the two shops is very similar, although just to demonstrate that not every red is the same red, this is my Blingasm and this is Blingy Thingy, and they are both 5mm and they are both called red, but they are slightly different colors. And that's why it's important to note which seller you bought it from. That may have been more in detail than anyone wanted, but it's the miracle of a YouTube video. You can skip through and see what I say next. So that about covers it for materials that are going to be needed throughout the course of these videos. I'm gonna switch camera angles here, and I'm gonna show you some examples and just talk about what the progression is going to be in this series and what we're going to aim to make together. So what I have here is a bit of a selection of my work. Most of these are pasties that I've made to sell, actually. However, these two sets right here are actually my own show sets, just for reference. So what we're going to start with in this series is basic, very basic, just circular pasties, and some of the ways to embellish them, like sequins or rhinestones, and picking colors you like and whatnot is that first step. But once you've done some circular pasties, the world will explode open after that, I promise. And then where I intend to go after that is actually just adding tassels and other like hanging charms to just regular circular pasties. Whee! Sorry, got a little distracted. And that will include actually a tutorial on making these tassels, as these were handmade tassels. You can tell by how they're a little bit wonky, but the handmade touch is absolutely awesome on stage, in my opinion. And then we're gonna move into shaped pasties, and how do you arrive at shapes like this Batman shape, you know? And then like this one is actually craft foam. This is the only one among these that is craft foam. But yeah, so things like shells and things like very rudimentary Pokemon, or you know, if you don't recognize the Pokemon, stars with rhinestones on them. And some of the techniques of how these were decorated and all of that, I will try to make sure that I cover as much as possible, especially how to fully glitter something, and to make it so that it does not rub off all the time. This absolutely does not rub off. It's a miracle. It's a miracle that I am so ready to share with you. And then I think the absolute last stage, which is not actually the most difficult stage, but somewhat the most expensive, is these are actually printer printed fabric, and then made into pasties. And we will go over some of the process of that. I hope to anyway. But that is absolutely the most expensive method you could go for, just because printer ink is so darn expensive. But that actually covers it. This is everything you will learn how to make, and hopefully a little bit more as we go into it. But I won't necessarily be doing these exact shapes. If these exact shapes are something you want to see gone through, just leave some comments, and if there's a demand, I will absolutely go over this. But I already have patterns for these, so we don't have a need to make new patterns. But if you'd like to see that process, I will do it. But hopefully through this tutorial series, I will actually be giving you the tools to do it yourself, which will hopefully make you feel really good about what you're making and how you're doing it. Alright, so that does it for this intro video. I think this turned out much longer than I thought, but I hope it was really helpful. If it wasn't, I hoped you skipped on to the next video already. Alright, I'll see you later, guys. Bye.